with diversity being such a trend and inclusion being such a trend, I'm noticing more magazines and brands collaborating with Black creators. But over and over again, I'm hearing the same story of exploitation. And I'm wondering how this is any different from the past. I've heard of photographers who get hired for the likes of Vogue magazine who aren't getting half the pay as their white counterparts because they're young and Black. And yet, these are the covers that are going viral on the internet.
Right.
This is what we want to see.
Right.
This is what the culture needs.
Right.
The culture is ran and dictated by Black people. And so we're fed this Black imagery and we praise it and uplift it, but we don't know what's going on. We don't know what went into the creation of that. We don't know that person's vision wasn't brought to the forefront in integrity because they were forced to compromise in order to fit into a box. Hello and welcome. You are now tuned into the Ebb Flow podcast. I'm your host, LA-based actor, model, and poet, Ebony Davis. Today's guest is super special, near and dear to my heart. We've had a phenomenal group of healers so far, and today's guest is no exception. She uses her lifestyle brand, everything that she stands for, aesthetics, beauty, to invite healing into our community. She is also responsible for this beautiful set that you see today, as well as helping to curate the Ebb and Flow podcast. Please welcome my partner in crime, Miss Orixa Jones.
Thanks for having me, girl.
You're so welcome. You look so stunning.
Thank you.
After building this set and helping to create this space, it's actually so phenomenal to see you in it. You blend in so well, to be expected. The flowers in the hair, the florals on the table, the dress, I expected nothing less.
Thank you.
Going back to the beginning, the very beginning of our friendship and what has blossomed into a work relationship and so much more. Let the people know how we met.
Twitter moment.
I
think you were going to Africa at the time, and you were looking for Black brands to wear while you were gone. And I was like, you know what, whatever. Let me just say something, and I did. And then Mara, shout out to Mara, she just kind of hopped in and co-signed.
Yeah.
And then it just went from there. I sent you a couple of shirts or something, and then that was it.
Orixa helped me on the very first issue of E! Magazine, which was the Ancestors issue. And in the behind-the-scenes footage for that issue, I was in Africa and I was wearing
a
Bad Girl, Good Human t-shirt. Full circle, 2 years later,
right.
She helps me put that issue together and serve it to the public, which God is insane. We don't even realize sometimes that we're planting seeds until they bear fruit. And it's whoa, I didn't even realize that was a seed. It wasn't until a year later, I think 2021, when I reached back out to you thinking I had been asking God for help. I was desperate at this point. I was like, God, you are asking so much of me. I really need help. I've been manifesting creative assistance for a very long time. And I think God just wanted me to be aligned with the right person. And so I reached out to you because I wanted to make this seasonal depression survival guide.
Right.
Because I was going through my own period of depression, shedding identities, waiting for a new identity to be rebirthed, not understanding this process that I was in, but wanting to just share tips on how I was getting through it. And that was our first thing together.
Yeah.
And so it's just been growing and growing and growing, this creative ecosystem. And I think, all of this, I would love for it to just culminate and really just be this wellness space within the entertainment industry that just reprograms and reformats what we're doing here. What is the point of having visibility if you aren't using your platform for change?
Right.
So let's hop right in. Why did you create your brand? Tell us what it's based on and what is its significance to you?
Well, I'll say I created it just from a space of this is how I've always felt. Bad Girl, Good Human for me was a way of expressing what I feel is multiple, there's multiple personalities within me, I feel. But of course, being so young, I don't really know how to articulate that. I don't know how to express that, so I had to keep living life. And it got up into a point where there was so much pressure with where I was in my life at the time where I just needed to just put it out. with no expectations, like with no real direction, but simply and solely from just expression. And I put it out, and it just took a mind of its own. It was the first time I ever did anything and just let it be what it was without me trying to confine it too much. And it kind of just like molded itself.
So I want to reiterate this name, Bad Girl, Good Human.
Yeah.
I think that's so important because as Black women and women in general, we're expected to behave a certain way. We've been programmed to believe that only certain behaviors are acceptable. Only certain behaviors should be public facing. You know, when we get into certain work environments, we have to leave parts of ourselves at home. How important is embracing our duality in deconstructing white supremacist ideals?
I think it's super, super important. Again, just going back to me feeling like I'm more than just one thing. And I think that just women in general, we're a lot of things to a lot of people, you know? So the whole boxing in ideal, it just never fit with me just from jump. And now that Bad Girl Good Human is what it is, like I'm so glad that women took to it the way that they have. In the beginning, I would get messages from women, like long paragraphs about how they feel so connected and they're so glad that the platform was created, and like even so far as like women getting tattoos of the brand on them. So I think it's probably about 10 girls now that I know of that have the name tattooed on them. So it's way bigger than me.
Yeah.
It's way bigger than me. It has absolutely nothing to do with me.
I think it really speaks to the need of the community that 10 people would go get that tattooed. It's almost an affirmation. It goes beyond a brand.
Yeah,
it's allowing yourself to, you know, operate outside of these ideals that have been placed on us for what girlhood and womanhood means, and really determine what that looks like for ourselves. And just because I operate outside of those ideals doesn't make me a bad person. It might not make me a person who fits into what you think I should be, but I'm still a great person.
Exactly.
I think that's remarkable. So touching on duality, would you tell us about some of the challenges of starting a business, but also some of the positives?
Challenges. I would say the importance of having like a team behind you. It doesn't even have to be a large team. It could be 2 people, but just having those extra hands, it definitely helps, you know, when you can get people to come in, but having consistent all the time help would be ideal. I think one of the positives is reconstructing like my mind and how I view the world, how I view my time. If it wasn't for like Bad Girl Good Human and creating my brand, I wouldn't value my time in the ways that I do now. I'm like a problem solver. Like I don't spend too much time on the things that fucked up. Like I'm trying to like, okay, this happened. Okay, so how am I going to fix it? What are we going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to pivot? And I wasn't always like that. I would sit and kind of like wallow in it for a while, a couple of days. But being a business owner, that's a positive. Like those negatives really turn into positives. I know that sounds like so cliche, but it is. And that has served me so well. And I've carried that into like my everyday life. Like, okay, you can be mad about it, but what are you going to do about it? And it creates this quicker turnover time for what we see as like failures, you know? It's this one saying that I like wrote down a long time ago. I might get a tattoo, but fail forward, fail faster. Like
just embrace it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Go head first into it.
And the quicker you do it, the better you get.
In a way, owning a business has allowed you to put up certain boundaries, like you said, around your time, around what you value, because you have this thing that you're protecting, very much like having a child. And I know from personal conversations that you had a vision when you were conceiving. The language is very important here. When you were conceiving Bad Girl, Good Human, you had a vision. Will you tell us a little bit about your vision and how this brand was brought to life?
It was so strange. Like at a point in time, I say around springtime of 2017, I started to have dreams. Of me being pregnant. Mind you, I've been the girl that's like, no, I'm not having kids. So when I started to have dreams about me being pregnant, I'm like, okay, wait, what's happening? There's no one in my life right now. Like, to cause these dreams to like kind of come into my mind. Like, what is this? And then exactly 8.5, 9 months later is when I feel that I hit like rock bottom in my life. Like, I had just moved out of my first apartment. And of course, I'm from LA, so I could have went back home, but I made the conscious decision to not go back home. I like basically struggled. Like, I picked struggling versus comfort, because I knew if I went back to comfort, I would be knocked back 100 steps. At one of my friend's house that I was like staying at the time, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to revisit what bad girl, good human means to me. I had wrote it down, kind of like discussed it with a few friends like one night, but never really did anything with it because I didn't just want to slap it on a shirt. Yeah. I wanted it to have like true meaning. Mm-hmm. And I shot out at the time what like my mission statement was at the time. I shot it to the girls that were in the room that I discussed it with. And then they were like, oh, that's it. And I'm like, okay. I'm going to put it out on December 15th. That date has no significance, but I wanted to give myself a deadline. Mm-hmm. And from November to December 15th, I just like worked on building out the brand. I shot the first shirt that I ever made, only had one shirt, and I shot it on 5 different people so I could build the content up. And then when December 15th came, I just put it out, and my life changed after that day.
So take us back to the pregnancy and how that was like a full circle moment and just the timing of it.
Man, you know what? I didn't even realize it until the following year.
Okay.
It didn't register to me like, wait, because I got a reading. Uh-huh. I got a reading around that time, like earlier in that year. I was telling her about those dreams, and she was like, you're birthing something. Like, I can see it. Like, there's something happening. And again, I didn't know. And one day I was sitting up, I don't know if I was talking to someone or either talking to myself. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This brand is what I was giving birth to this whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, this is why I was...
Exactly 9 months after having that vision,
Yes, like, this is why I was going through what I was going through at the time, and all of that angst and that turmoil and that confusion and the what is happening is because I was giving birth.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, when we think about, the birth process, it comes with contractions. It comes with pain. It also comes with morning sickness, all of these things before you give birth to this beautiful thing. And you're like, oh, I realize why I had to go through these initiations in order to be able to have this thing. And also all of those initiations prepared me to have this thing and know how to care for it, know how not to lose it, know how not to abandon it, know how to nurture it, because I've been building up that skill set this entire time.
Right. And it's so funny you say the skill sets. Like, modeling was my first love. Yeah. So, going from modeling and then kind of fizzling out of that in my early 20s, and then like, oh, I want to be a blogger. So that forces me to write. So I'm like, oh, I don't really like that. Moving to photography. Don't really like that. Yeah. Losing people's files is not my thing. Don't want to do that. So then from that creative medium was the space between, like, from photography to Bad Girl Good Human. That was a space where I'm like, I've gone through 3 different rounds of creative mediums. What in the hell? Like, what is this? So again, post-birth, I look back and I'm like, oh, I did all those 3 things to prep me for this thing. And now that this thing is here, it has completely prepped me to walk into our direction.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think it's just so incredibly powerful because, the way that our society is structured, it's kind of like we have to pick one thing and we have to stick to it, and if not, we're like a jack of trades, master of none. But we don't realize that sometimes being that jack of all trades is preparing us for that one great thing, that one great role that we play. Our magnum opus is the culmination of all of these different things and all of these skills that we've been picking up along the way. And I think, even now with like Instagram and just the way things are structured, we can find success in one lane and get it in and be stuck there because we are validated there and we get praised there, when we get recognition there, and we know how other people are going to respond to it, but we don't know how other people might respond to this other thing that we also are being guided toward. I know that was very much the case with me, like you said, shifting out of modeling and going into poetry. I'm hosting this thing now, and who knows how people are going to respond to it, but I know that it's something that I was impregnated with, and it's an idea that is true for me, that God has allowed me to bring forth and be a vessel for. So I just admire your courage and your strength to be able to pivot in those ways, because I think a lot of people are afraid to.
It's scary.
Yeah, it can be scary. And it's like, do I not know myself?
Right.
I think we question ourselves, and I think that'll kind of take us into the next part of our conversation, just around imposter syndrome. How do we overcome that? We touched on it before in conversation, and I would just love for you to elaborate.
I'm still in that phase of getting out of that. I feel like it's not talked about enough, like the knowing and the embodying.
Yes.
It's two separate things. It's like one thing to know something and another to embody it. And I'm on the bridge of becoming, like in the middle of both of them.
Yes.
The bridge has been so rocky. But again, that thought process, like, damn, I know all this stuff, but why is it taking me so long to embody the things that I know? And I had watched an interview with Kevin Hart and Jay-Z, and when he said damn near the same thing I said, he was like, I was, rapping and saying certain things in my songs, but I wasn't really living that. And that's when I realized, like, there is a gap between the things that I'm talking about and how I am living. And I'm like, wow, I'm not crazy. That is a process. That's like,
how do you feel like we close that gap?
Practice every day, all the time.
Just like building your confidence.
Building it. Even in the most like mundane ways. Like for me, it's speaking up, using my voice. That's not something I was always granted as a child. So now as an adult, I have to like reparent myself and know that my voice is valuable, just as valuable as the next person. But again, practicing even in the most smallest situations. Let's say I'm at a grocery store, someone's too close to me, say something, things like that. Small doses of practice get you to the other side.
How important is faith in that journey, or faith in that place of having imposter syndrome? I've shed many layers. I've gone through many different identities, and I feel like my faith is the only thing that's really carried me at times when an identity has died, a version of myself has died, and a new version has yet to be born, and you're kind of in that limbo. And faith is all that you have, or all that I had. How important is it for you?
It's extremely important. It's not always the easiest thing to really grasp, because faith, it's not something you see. And for me, at this point in my life, like, let's just say I'm having a down day, right? But my faith, like when I open my eyes, like first thing in the morning, I look around and I feel this stillness and I feel this peace. And I'm like, okay, things are not looking the way that I want them to look, but my faith and my vision that God gave me is what got me here. Hold on to that. Stay in that. Because that is the thing that's going to keep you going.
Right. I think what's so interesting is that we'll have a vision for our lives. We'll have all of these dreams and all of these aspirations, and then God will give us a task, and we'll say, God, I'm not good enough. We'll say, I'm too small. I don't know if I can do this. Or we'll do it, and we'll constantly question what we did. We'll constantly question the work. And God tells us, you wouldn't have got the opportunity if you weren't ready for it. Right. You have all of these dreams and aspirations and things that you're telling me that you want to be. You praying to me, asking for me to bless you with opportunities, and you don't even want to show up for the opportunities that I give you. Right. Or you're telling yourself that you're not good enough for the opportunities that I'm giving you.
Right.
How do you deal with that? How do you experience that?
I'm dealing with it. Current time, current day, like dealing with it. I think that it is this like fear that will I not feel my role? You know what I mean? Will I not feel the shoes of the role that I know I'm called to be in?
Yeah.
Do I have enough experience to really keep this vision, this goal? Like, do I?
Right.
And that is something that I have been struggling with. I would be lying if I said that I wasn't.
Right.
On the other side of that, it's like I had this knowing and this vision since early on. Didn't know what it was going to be, but a very deep knowing, like, I'm going somewhere. I don't know where I'm going, but I know that it is somewhere, and I know that it is of value. I know that it is of weight, and I know that it doesn't have shit to do with me. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's bigger than me.
That's the point that makes the difference. I think that's what knocks imposter syndrome out of the window, is realizing, like, God needs this. This isn't for me. This isn't about me. This is happening through me. I am merely the vessel for this. So I need to get out of the way and let God work. It doesn't matter what experience I've had. It doesn't matter what I'm showing up with. It doesn't matter what shortcomings or downfalls I think I have. Right. God is using me. There's healing that needs to happen. And if I'm standing in the way because I feel like I'm not good enough, then I'm not allowing God to do what God needs to do to reach all of these people that can only be reached through what I have to offer.
Right.
It's so liberating too, because it's like God's not about to fail. You know? Right. God's not about to have me out here looking crazy. It's like, yes, there are certain things that I need to do to prepare myself, but I'll get instruction on how to do that. If I'm diligent and I'm in faith and I'm in prayer and I'm in communication, I'll get instruction on what I need to do to be ready. Right. But besides that, I just need to move out of the way and let God work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is literally like the messaging that I got this year. Yes. You know, after the launch with Foot Locker in February. Yeah, in February, after the launch with Foot Locker, I just got this message to go sit down. And I was trying to resist it. Like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I got confirmation to, like, go sit down, and I was going to resist it. I'm like, well, wait, what do you mean sit down? This is how I make my money. Like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Halfway through, I believe I was in Atlanta around this time. I snuck off to Atlanta for 2 weeks to kind of, like, get away. I got another message that said, you are going to be sitting down for the remainder of the year. This is your non-active year.
Yes.
You said sit down. You didn't say your girl's finna be on the bench for the rest of the year.
Not like, what
are you talking about? Right. Yes. And it's like, if I don't sit down, I won't be in preparation for this new role, this new season that I'm about to step into. Like, you need to sit down and prepare yourself. You need to sit down and shed more childhood trauma. You need to address these personal issues within yourself that can block you when you get in this new arena.
Yes. That gave me full body chills. I that resonates so deeply. I think if there's one thing I would go back and tell past versions of myself is, in that transitional stage, just rest. Right. Like, give God some time to be God and to orchestrate some things, and you just come into alignment with that higher vibration that will allow you to magnetize that higher level to you and then be able to sustain it. That's all you need to do when you're shedding skin, is literally like, okay, I've lived that version of my identity. I'm letting it die. I'm ready for the next level. It's not quite here. What do I need to do? I need to prepare by coming into alignment through healing myself, sitting with myself, resting myself. myself. And that's, you know, that's that divine feminine energy coming through. That's that surrender coming through, knowing that you will be taken care of and provided for. And I think even you being here on set today is a testament to what can happen when you're obedient to that spirit of rest and that spirit of stopping. Because if your schedule was filled up with your own agenda, you wouldn't have been able to curate this beautiful space. You wouldn't be sitting here across from me today.
Right.
You know, and I think that is just a testament of what can happen when you're just obedient to that spirit and you have that faith. So you briefly touched on Foot Locker while you were answering this last question, and I just wanted to come back to that. You know, you did a collaboration with them. It turned out beautifully. I would love for you to speak to just like the nature of collaborations when it comes to being a small business owner and then having corporate interest in your business and corporations come in who want to collaborate. What happens within that dynamic?
A lot of things can happen when you're approached by, you know, such a large corporation. For myself, in my personal experience, I'm 95% of the time one woman show. So when corporate meets creative, it can get kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
You know,
that was a lot of
they can, you know, when you get on the email thread and all these different jargon starts to come at you, and it's like, okay, wait, what? Okay, wait, you want me to learn this system in a week, and then you want me to do this and process this? Wait a minute, wait. Do you have people to help me, to assist me with this? Yeah. Because you did come to me. Right. I am a small business. I don't have everything. I don't have what a corporate a business has. So by the grace of God, if you can have people that can kind of like lead you in the right direction, having certain things in order, like your do's and your don'ts, what's your non-negotiables. Like, okay, I'm willing to compromise here, but over here it's a no. If you're not willing to meet me here, we can't do this.
It's just like any relationship.
Exactly. And that is something that I learned more than halfway through. I was ready to quit. Yeah. It was so daunting until I felt like I was losing my mind. Yeah. And I said, you know what? This whole thing is bigger than me. Right. I'm going to sacrifice. If I have to be the sacrifice for my community to come back when I'm ready to give them what I learned from this situation, I'll do it.
What would that be?
Oof, I'm still processing it. It took a year for that project to come out. So from February 2021 to February 2022, I was on that project. Yeah. So again, this rest year has been a time for me to sit back and process not only personal, but that as well. Yeah.
Would you say that it's been a time to reevaluate your boundaries? Because maybe there were red flags in the beginning, just like with any relationship, romantic, platonic, business, there are always red flags. There are always, alerts, and maybe we're not as aware of them because it's something new and it's something foreign. It might feel exciting, but they are there. Would you say that there were things that you overlooked? And would you say that this was a time, or this time that you've been resting has been a time for you to reevaluate and strengthen your boundaries?
One thing that I did overlook in that process was someone not being able to talk to me about a thing I've been asking for months. Like, I need to talk to the marketing team. My business is solely online. I don't have brick and mortars like you guys. So my approach is very different. You know, the creative has to be on point to tell the story, to get the message across. I'm not just going to give them, give my people BS.
I think the storytelling is such an important aspect for Black creatives that corporate, they couldn't care.
They don't get it. They don't care. And that was a part that upset me so much. I felt like I couldn't tell the story in the way that I wanted to because, I didn't end up getting the backing that I needed to tell the story. So things kind of just fell through. But again, that pivot in me, I figured it out and I got it done, and I created a whole separate visual from what we filmed on set.
I think, that's commendable, but it just shouldn't be the standard. That shouldn't be the way things are. And I really wanted to touch on this because with diversity being such a trend and inclusion being such a trend, I'm noticing more magazines and brands collaborating with Black creators. But over and over again, I'm hearing the same story of exploitation. And I'm wondering how this is any different from the past.
Yeah.
You know, if we're not changing on a systemic level, how is this any different from the exploitation of the past when we were left out of these spaces?
Right.
You know, at least left to our own devices and with our own resources, we don't have to worry about these corporate giants coming in and poaching, positioning themselves as woke, positioning themselves as inclusive, but yet still running game on the back end.
Right.
You know, I've heard of photographers who get hired for the likes of Vogue magazine who aren't getting half the pay as their white counterparts because they're young and Black. And yet, these are the covers that are going viral on the internet.
Right.
This is what we want to see.
Right.
This is what the culture needs.
Right.
The culture is ran and dictated by Black people. And so we're fed this Black imagery and we praise it and uplift it, but we don't know what's going on. We don't know what went into the creation of that. And a lot of times that power dynamic is off. You know, we see Black brands collaborating with, you know, Foot Locker or whoever is coming in who wants a piece of that woke pie, who wants a piece of that inclusive pie, you feel me?
To reach their quota.
You know,
for the year.
Reach your quota, to check a HR box. But we don't know that person's vision wasn't brought to the forefront in integrity because they were forced to compromise in order to fit into a box. We want corporate support, right? As Black creatives, like you said, you haven't had the support. You haven't had the team to depend on. And so we want the support. We want the funding. We want the infrastructure. But at what cost?
Right.
And I think that's the crossroads that we're finding ourselves at quite a bit in this moment.
Right.
You know, so how do we navigate that? And maybe you don't have the answers. Maybe that's something we're still figuring out. I think for me, my answer is I'm gonna go build my own table. Fuck a seat at yours.
Post project, I'm like, okay, you guys didn't have the funds to give me, but I don't even have resources. I don't even have contacts.
Why would you approach me with that budget? Let's start there.
Girl, if I told you.
Let's start there. The audacity. The caucasity. Why would you approach me? Why did you think that it was appropriate to approach me with a budget that you wouldn't dare approach my white counterpart with?
Absolutely.
Let's
and
start
then
there.
wait 8 months into the project to tell me that you don't have it. And
That's
we're already
insane.
too far in to really like kind of bring it back. We've
It's
crunched
exploitation.
numbers. Exactly.
Oh
Exactly.
my God. Slavery by another name. Like, you are using me, you are using my likeness, you are using my vessel, you are using my labor, and you are not compensating me for that.
Exactly. And you know what? Again, back to it's bigger than me. I was more mad and pissed for my community than myself. I'm like, what? Like, these people are valuable to me. Even though I haven't met, you know, even half of the women who follow me, but I'm not giving them lackluster anything.
Right.
And the fact that you came over here and thought that is what was going to happen is baffling to me. There's no value. You don't value.
I mean, just from our previous conversations, coming in and saying, we're going to go with a different manufacturer than the one that you use because we can get these T-shirts for cheaper, but the quality reflects that.
Right.
I've been giving my customers quality for years, and now you want to come in, collaborate with me, and tell me that you want to diminish my quality because you can't pay an extra $1 per unit.
And that's what happened. The collection was
with all this money.
Right. The collection literally was supposed to be about 14 pieces. It ended up being 6 because they said that it was too expensive for like the processing that I was doing, like the dyeing and all that. It was just too expensive.
So why did you approach me again with this budget or lack thereof in the first place? And I feel like your story is not uncommon. And I think that's what's so frustrating is like, it's like another veil. You know, especially after the 2020 protests and marches where everybody decided to post their black square and call themselves inclusive, okay? You know, there was like this sort of outpour of like, yes, we are on the bandwagon and we will collaborate with black brands, but this is what y'all are really doing.
On the back end.
On the back end. This is what's really happening on the back end.
Right.
This isn't true collaboration. This is another form of exploitation.
Absolutely.
For your brand to sustain this shift that we're in, where black creatives are truly realizing their value. You want a piece of that. You after years and years of telling us that black people don't buy and black people don't spend and black people, now you realize that black people are actually leading the culture. We do buy, we do spend, number one demographic, and you want a piece of that.
Exactly.
So being the infinitely talented, abundant human that you are, I'm wondering if there are any business ventures you want to try next.
It's really just stepping into like my art direction role. I have been doing it for a couple years now, but not really like classifying it as anything. Yeah. I've had like outside people, like my friends, like, Orixa, no, this is what you've been doing. Like, this is like the meat and potatoes. Like, no, this is it. And I'm like, no, well, it's not really that. No. But now, again, like working with you and just kind of seeing myself outside of my own world and helping assist you in building your new world is like, oh, wait, I do this. Like, for real. Like, yeah. I really do this. So that is the next biggest creative endeavor that I'm on, is like introducing myself to the world as an art director.
Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I imagine myself like in the next 3 to 4 years, really in that embodiment that I was speaking about earlier, really just walking in my highest self and holding that frequency inside of my work life and outside of it as well. I see myself owning property by that time, owning my first home.
Period.
By that time.
It's owned.
That's pretty much it. That's as far as I can see right now.
Yeah. In this moment, I'm thinking back to having coffee with you. It was put on my spirit to like reach out to you in this moment. And you're like, it was put on my spirit to like stop and chill and pause. And at the same time, it was like our instruction intersected.
Right.
And this is the manifestation of that. And I think it's just a testament to the obedience, the alignment, and just trusting where you are, having faith, surrendering, and just knowing that that guidance that's coming in is coming from a very real, tangible place.
I think it's so crazy how we're close in age. We're damn near like the same age, but how I used to like watch America's Next Top Model, and like you were like the first young contestant, right?
Yeah, for my season, I was 18.
Right. And I would watch, and like when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, like that makes me want to, try. And you were one of the few that I had kept up with like over the years. So to like now be sitting across from you and working with you is like, it's a crazy thing. It's like, is this why I, chose to like, or was led to like keep up with this person because she would be in my life later?
Wow.
So I just thank you. Thank you so much for like believing in me and allowing me to be free in who I am and in my creativity and in my person. And I love you so much for that. And I just hope and pray that we can build a bigger world together.
Why you do this to me? Oh my God. Wow. Thank you. I didn't even know that. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. A piece of advice that Issa Rae gave that has always stuck with me is building a cross.
Yeah.
A lot of people always try to build up. They always try to climb that ladder and see who they can use to ascend. And since hearing that interview, I've really always tried to just look and see who's next to me. Not necessarily when it comes to Instagram numbers, not when it comes to followers, but on a frequency. Who's on this frequency with me? Who's doing this work that I'm doing? Who's about it like I'm about it? And naturally, I gravitated towards you because the messaging that you put out there, your presence, it radiates, it vibrates. It doesn't matter how many people are following or not following. And so I thank you for being you authentically and allowing that authenticity to lead you to where you're supposed to be. Because if you were busy trying to be something else or be somewhere else or do something else, then I wouldn't have been able to recognize that frequency. I wouldn't have been able to recognize you as a mirror or a reflection and call you into this work. And so I'm grateful to you for having the courage and the audacity to be yourself and to do something different, to break out of the mold and embody who you're truly meant to be in this world. My love, my road dog, my homie, my G, like, it's been so great. You are truly beautiful, stunning from the inside out. And I'm so excited to see what we build together and what you continue on to build for yourself. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait for the world to see what we create together.
Period. Wow. That was such a powerful episode. It was such a personal episode. And I'm just so grateful to Orixa for not only being here, but facilitate us being here, creating this beautiful space for us to be in, for us to thrive in, for us to share and heal in. Without her gifts, it wouldn't have been all that it is. I thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I really hope that you were able to pick up these gems that we were dropping, because so many were dropped. And we're just so proud at the Ebb and Flow podcast to bring you this healing. And I just thank you so much for being here and witnessing the journey. It's here. It's here, and it's beautiful. This is the Daughter Diary. I made this in collaboration with Aya Paper Co., and I'm so excited to introduce this to you all. It is an interactive journal and workbook full of my quotes. This one says, being a role model isn't about showing people how to be like you. It's about using your freedom to show others it's safe to be themselves. So hopefully you feel inspired by these quotes. You use them as journal prompts for your own healing. And I hope you love the illustration on the front. This is based on a still photo from the documentary that I'm in about my life called Black Girls Film. It's about my role as a catalyst for change within the Black community and my role as a vessel for Black female empowerment. I'm so excited by this. This is the culmination of so many minds. Janae Strong, Sherelle Swain, thank you so much for coming together to make this. Thank you, Aya Paper Co., for being incredible collaborators. Go get yours today on ebonydavis.com. And take a picture, send it to me, tag me in it, please, because I look forward to seeing y'all all with your Daughter Diaries. Proceeds from the journal will go to my nonprofit organization, also called Daughter, hence the name, which provides birthright trips for descendants of the diaspora to return back to the motherland for immersive, life-changing experiences. So it's for a good cause. It has been a phenomenal season. I've had the opportunity of speaking to some amazing people who have changed my life and hopefully will change yours. And I just thank you all so much for tuning into the Ebb and Flow podcast. You can look forward to many more seasons full of gems, full of hard-hitting questions, and full of amazing, awe-inspiring answers. I appreciate your presence here. I love you so much, and God bless.